Alright, so x and y, copy that x and y, put some 1s there, copy that over here. So, you start your private functions with the underscore, and then the public functions are just basically function pointers to the private ones. And then if later, there's also kind of an adapter pattern going here, right? Because if we later want to change the implementation of these and have a little bit more encapsulation on this, right? We can, swap this out for, get x public or whatever, something like that. Okay. So we have these, and then we could do something like, function get x0, right? So this is the private function, and then we'll just return our private variables .x0, and we'll do that, and then we'll just paste that, go over here, take those. Oh shit, sorry, I gotta remember to make sure things are in screen when I'm doing this. And then we got our x's. I'm doing xy, so xy, xy, 0, and 1. So those line up. And then you might... Transposition errors are the biggest problem I usually have in my code, so you might want to do a little bit of double checking. Zeros match, the 1s match, the x's match, y's match. Okay, so everything matches. So now we have this kind of like OOP, overkill, Java clunky piece of shit as far as I'm concerned, right? And then if we want like one of these new rectangles, we would do something like var rectangle equals new rectangle. Oh, sorry, I can't see that. Like this. Yep, like that. But look at all that, all this stuff here. This is bureaucracy. This is, I mean, I think this is overkill. Depending on what kind of shop you work in, you might be writing code this way. Me, I would much rather just do it this way. So notice that we're not actually using the new keyword, and we're just making the new part of the function name, and then we just create an object on the fly, and then we seal it. So this way of having like new in the function name and creating a constructor-like function that way is a habit I kind of learned from doing some like Golang programming. So I'm kind of like taking some things I've learned from Java and C#, taking some things I've learned from Go, taking some things I've learned from C, taking some things I know about JavaScript. I'm just putting them all into my habit of how I write my JavaScript. Which basically means my JavaScript can be batshit crazy because it doesn't conform to like the, I guess the culture of JavaScript, right? Because I'm sampling from all these different programming cultures, right? Because every language has a different culture around how people think code should be written in that language. And then basically I'm kind of like taking what I think are the best aspects of different languages. Take the best of what procedural programming has to offer, take the best of what OOP has to offer, and sample a little bit from both of those and mix it together into something unique, right? Because OOP is not the be-all end-all, but neither is procedural. It's a very gray area. Anyways, I'm ranting. So this here I think is bullshit, but since I took the time to code it, I might as well put it into a snippet. So I kind of like archive everything I write into little snippets. So I will just save this as shortcut files, and it's JavaScript, and snips, and new folder, and we'll just call this Java-like rectangle. And then go in here, and I'll name the file JLR for Java-like rectangle. And then snip that to my clipboard. And then in my shortcut script right here, I'll just write Java like rectangle. And then I will paste the path and then paste file. Okay, so my shortcut script that I use, I wrote it in AutoHotkey. Basically, you'll type this phrase and then 2 commas after it, and then it will use this as the data, and then this is what it will do with the data. So the data is a file path, and the command to operate on that data is called paste file. So basically, it's going to paste the file contents to wherever you're currently typing. So if I need that snippet ever again really quick, I can bring it up. Another thing I do is I can type synonyms, and then I just have a bar between those synonyms. So I would have to reload this shortcut script to actually demonstrate it working, and I don't really want to do that because I have 250,000 lines in this shortcut script. So I don't feel like reloading it because, I've optimized the sorting algorithm, but you can only get so fast sorting data with AutoHotkey. Eventually I'm going to move to something like OpenCL and do and use the GPU to write a sorting algorithm to sort through this data a lot faster, but it's just not a priority right now. So let's see this other code I was writing. So this new rectangle, I might want this code later, so we'll also save this as a snippet. And I actually like this rectangle class, so I will. Do I really want to call it rectangle like that? I don't really want to call it that, because my own personal style is more shorthand. Well, then again, I could call it something like this: inclusive bounds rectangle, right? I could call it something like that. And then right here, this might actually be too terse of a name. Let's see. I'm going to call it a bounding rect, or a bounding rectangle. And then here I'm going to abbreviate like this. So bow, the first 3 letters of the word bounding, and then the first 3 letters of rectangle. So bow rect. When I'm talking about this, I might not. One of the tenets of clean code, which I have read, is to, don't abbreviate names, because then you can't talk about them, because what are you gonna do? Say bow rec? How are you gonna say that in an English conversation? That's a valid point, but how about this? Bounding rectangle. Just because you abbreviate it doesn't mean that, when you talk about it in English that you have to say it like that. Now, you have to have a common understanding with your other programmers on your team that when you say bounding rect, you mean this guy, right? So I'm happy with that. I noticed that I did forget something for this, which is, you actually need a return statement. So I need to return that rectangle. Return doesn't need these parentheses, but I always use them because of semicolon injection. So if you did this, you'll return void. I guess it would be undefined in JavaScript, because it'll inject a semicolon right here at the end of the line, and then it'll never get to this statement, which is annoying. So to avoid problems like that, if you wrote it like this, right, that's a syntax error, right? So now that works. Obviously, that's ugly as sin, but, maybe you have something where it's some type of, complex expression over here, and if you forget these here, like this, well, then you're going to have a problem, right? You're going to get that semicolon injection, and this will never get returned. So anyways, all the time in JavaScript, when I return something, always put it between parentheses so you don't get screwed over by semicolon injection. Because I tell you what, if you're not aware of semicolon injection, or you're not considering the possibility that that is happening to you when you're debugging, it can just be a nightmare to debug. A little bit of OCD lining things up. That's just, I've been programming too much C code, I guess. And that looks good. My timer went off, so I'm going to start recording again.